Hey, it's Fear. I just want to let you know the episode of FEARCast you're about to listen to is from season 1, so it's old and the material might not be relevant. The conversation's still good, but the band may or may not be still together. The person making movies might not be doing it anymore. But just in case, I wanted to put it out there so you guys can check it out. And also Google the bands, see if anybody's still around. And if you hear music you like, there you go. Also, check out any of the movies mentioned because movies are always still around. Well, I guess unless they pull them away. Anyway, it's an older episode, but a good episode, so I wanted to put it out. Stay tuned, nftfyb.com for everything new. And I hope you come back and enjoy season 2. We're getting some new guests and getting this thing going. So check out the other podcasts, Talk Life Pod, A and Way, and of course, FEARCast. So run along, kiddies. Are you ready? And welcome to FEARCast, everybody. I'm your host, Fear Innes. How the fuck are you? Today I got my man riding shotgun right from the naked porch. How you doing?
What's up, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen and gentlemen and gentlemen? What's up, Bryan? How you doing today? Good, man. How are you?
Yeah, that's just
not
it.
Not bad.
We get to sit down and chat with the CEO of Metal Blade Records, Bryan Slagel. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good today, man. Thank you.
So we were just, me and Ray were just gabbing back and forth, and not gonna lie, I think we're gonna fangirl just a little bit.
Absolutely, man. Bryan's a freaking legend. So for those of you who don't know who he is, he's the founder and CEO of Metal Blade Records, obviously. Founded some of the most influential metal acts for over the last 35 years, including, if I'm not mistaken, giving Metallica kind of their first break.
That is very correct.
Guess let's start from the beginning, man. 35 years ago, what really spawned you to decide, you know what, I'm going to take the bull by the horn and start my own label?
Well, it never was that really thought, but I was, just really into the new wave of British heavy metal, which was the big scene that was happening in the early 80s. And because of that, I started the first ever U.S. heavy metal fanzine. And then from there, I ended up working at a record store and bringing in all that stuff that I had loved and even more beyond that. And then I started helping out with the local scene in L.A. And, there's all this stuff going on, but this is, 35 years ago when there was no internet, no cell phones, no nothing. So you're kind of doing these things not knowing, there was nobody that knew anything about what was happening in LA, nor would there really ever be anyone that would ever realize what was going on. So I kind of took the initiative of what happened with the new wave of British heavy metal. It was a very much do-it-yourself attitude, a lot of indie labels, a lot of indie releases, and thought, well, I knew all these distributors who were bringing me records in. I asked them, I said, hey, if I put together an album of local LA heavy metal bands, would you guys distribute it? And they said, sure. So at that time you had, Rat and Motley Crue and a few other bands that were starting to play around LA. So I just went around all the bands and asked them, if you give me a song, I can put it on this compilation album just to really help out the scene. And then I was also friends with this kid from Denmark named Lars that we had met a couple of years earlier because he had just moved from Denmark to LA, and we saw him at the parking lot of a Michael Schenker show wearing a Saxon European T-shirt. And in 1980 in LA, nobody knew who Saxon was, let alone had a European T-shirt. So we're running up to him and like, where did you get that? And he had just moved there. So we ended up hanging out and becoming friends. And then, he had, I guess, tried to put together a band, but nothing really ever happened. And then he said, hey, if I put together a band, can I be on your album? And I said, sure. And he went, I guess James and he had kind of been jamming a little bit. Nothing really came of it. And when Lars went back to him and said, hey, to be on the record, which was a big thing, then they kind of decided to form some band called Metallica. And the rest is history there. And then I put out the record and kind of it slowly grew from there. Wow.
Yeah. That's so crazy. So you started this.
Right place at the right time.
Well, yeah, it's like this.
Right place at the right time.
You take your passion project, something you're fully devoted into in your love of metal, and you end up setting essentially the course of how the whole metal stage would develop through the 80s.
Yeah, back then it was so weird because I couldn't play any music, so my only way to help was to do other things. And it was just, we all just loved the music then. They were all young kids. We didn't know anything. We didn't really think anything would ever really come of this, but we were so passionate about what was going on. We just felt other people should hear this. And little did we know that it would become so huge as it is now. It's kind of bizarre.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I was just going to say that's pretty amazing. So you're meeting all these different musicians. You're putting together a compilation album. Was there any like certain people that you met and you just were like, okay, I can see that these guys are going to be stars? Like,
no way. I mean, we were involved with kind of helping out Motley Crue back in the day too. They were actually going to be on the first Metal Massacre, but they, put out their own record and kind of had some things going on. There's no way we ever could have envisioned any of this stuff. When we knew there was something cool happening, and we thought all these bands are really cool, but I mean, there's no way to envision anything. I mean, it's all so small, and like I said, it was just frustrating for the fact that there was this scene happening at that point, kind of in a vacuum, because nobody knew that it existed. They were just trying to get the word out there. I mean, I think we just thought if it could happen for, a couple of minutes, it would be cool. But yeah, it was a crazy time back then in the early days when all this stuff was first happening. And like I said, there's just, you can't ever predict what can happen.
Absolutely. How did you go from the very beginning, finding these bands, releasing a compilation, but how did you learn the whole behind the scenes business aspect of the industry? Because that's a lot to know. By making every mistake humanly possible by doing this. I mean, I had no clue what I was doing when I was doing. I mean, the first record really was just an extension of the fanzine, and I kind of thought at that point I was going to be a journalist more so than a record. I never thought I'd be a record label guy. But I just made every single mistake, and then that record came out, and then there's a whole long story which you can read about in our book, which is coming out later this year. But I just kind of somebody, the distributor, thought, yeah, you kind of know what you're doing. We know you don't have any money, because they had zero money. They barely scraped up enough to do the first pressing of the Metal Massacre. And they said, if you can find bands, then we can distribute them for you. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I knew some bands that might be able to go in the studio and do something. And then it just kind of started from there. But I did the whole thing. The first 3 years of the existence of Metal, it was just me in my mom's garage behind her house, just doing everything all by myself. And in those first 3 years, like I said, I made every mistake humanly possible. And you just kind of learn from like, okay, don't do that again. Don't do that again. And eventually you kind of figure it out.
Well, I was just going to say, so while you're going through all these different motions, you're making every mistake possible. Was there any sort of pitfalls that you hit that you thought, holy shit, I might not be able to get out of this one?
Yeah, there's certainly a few things that happened when that was the case, mostly money related, because in the early days, I mean, I had zero money, no credit, no nothing. So you definitely come up with, some issues. I mean, we could have done the first Metallica record if I had any money, but they needed money to record, and none of us had any, so it never happened. So there was some pieces of time where that was a real big struggle, and a couple things happened. Our early distributor kind of helped me out a little bit with, just kind of making the cash flow work, because that was a big problem. And then, at one point in time, I grew up with vinyl. And I loved vinyl. Vinyl was my thing. And when it was starting to go away in the mid to late 80s, I was like, no, vinyl's never going away. It's not ever going to happen. I love vinyl. And I didn't listen to what anybody said when they said, this stuff's not going to be selling anymore, and you should probably not keep manufacturing it. And at one point we got so many returns for all the vinyl we put out, and then all that money was credited against us, that I had no money for about 3 months. And just at that point I was able to get a couple credit cards just to kind of fund the company for a couple of times. But you definitely hit, there's probably 3 or 4 times where I hit a brick wall and thought, this might be the end, but you just kind of get up, figure it out, and move from there.
That's amazing, man. I can't even imagine having gone 3 years making all those mistakes, losing a bunch of money or gaining or whatever you're doing there, but just keeping it afloat and going forward and seeing, like you said, the crack of, I guess, 8-track, vinyl, cassette tapes, CDs, and now it's just pretty much all digital, which is like a whole different world now.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, though. I think, we've gone through so many of these changes that you don't really panic when things change. You just kind of go, okay, well, this is the way it's going to go. We need to kind of roll with the punches and figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Well, yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Through the 35 years you've been doing it, there's been so many different changes in the way that people consume media. I think that was a pretty good answer to say you just kind of roll with the punches. But have you found anything that has kind of hindered it more than I guess what I'm hinting at is the digital age has kind of been a pain in the dick for a lot of people. And is it something that you felt was a good thing or a bad thing, or it doesn't matter? You just kind of hit it headstrong.
Well, I mean, there's different components to it. It's an interesting situation. And quite honestly, it's going better than I would have expected it to at this point. We were all a little worried, moving forward, because, metal is predominantly a physical business and always has been. And it's one of the last ones kind of moving to the digital platform, really metal and country, the only two. So, we lost a lot of our business physically last year in a lot of the world, but we've been able to make up for it with the streaming sort of stuff. And the thing about the streaming and everything is that, the biggest issue that you have just in the way the business is, and certainly the music business. And I would tell this to my friends in other businesses when I describe how the business works, and then I'll go, really? Because, as a label, you're responsible for, a lot of the payments and recording and stuff. But you're certainly responsible for manufacturing all the product, getting it shipped to stores. And it's basically all on consignment. Like if we ship out 10,000 records, we could get 10,000 records back, and those are records we've already paid for and we've shipped, and you can lose money a lot of ways that way. So certainly with the streaming, you don't have as many risks in terms of those things that you had before. So, there's some positive things to it, and it's just, look, people are going to consume music in a lot of different ways these days, and it's going to be, vinyl and CDs are certainly not going to go away tomorrow, but it's going to be a lot less than they were, and the streaming, and as long as people consume music and they pay for it one way or another, we're happy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I mean, because we've talked to quite a few different bands on here, and that's kind of one of the sort of angles that we take a lot, because the big change within the industry. And so thinking about it, do you feel like 35 years ago when you got this started, this is before the internet, do you think the internet would have helped you immensely, or would it have caused kind of the oversaturation we see now with a lot of the music that's out there?
Well, one thing that this has done is it's made you have to put out good records, because at some point, and even now, there's really no reason for people to have to pay for it. So if you don't put out quality product, your people are not going to buy it. And that certainly probably would have helped the whole metal scene in the late 80s anyway, when a lot of bands were putting out records that had one good song on it. You'd go pay at that point almost $20 for a record, and there'd be one good song and the rest was terrible.
Yeah.
So that certainly wasn't good for the overall scene. It almost, caused it to completely die out. But so, I mean, that might have helped a little bit. Who knows? It's so hard to say. And like I said, I always try to look at it positively and take whatever positive signs there are for whatever's happening. Because if you dwell too much on the other stuff, you just drive yourself crazy. And it's maybe one reason why we've been able to survive for so long, is you just like latch on to go, okay, well, this is working, so let's pay attention to that and make sure that we cover that, and make sure that we do all of our, due diligence to make sure that it all works, as opposed to going, oh, woe is us, we've just lost, all of our, people who are buying physical. I mean, just can't really look at it that way.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think also with Metal Blade, you guys have been able pretty much to diversify your roster a bit. It's not all the same type of metal. You got kind of a mixed bag. So I think that sort of helps too. I think that helps to keep people focused. Also, another thing I can say is that the way that metal as a scene overall works, I find that once a fan is, is super into the band, they're loyal and pretty much will buy the album. They usually don't tend to shy away from it and say, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, without a doubt, that the fans are so loyal and they've been so phenomenal over all these times. I mean, there's a lot of labels and a lot of styles of music that really, really struggled especially when, you had all the file sharing and everything going along. And, metal fans have always been super supportive. They understand, and I think they have a really good relation with the bands and everybody too. They understand that that the bands need to be supported. If they're not supported in all the various ways you can support a band, that they can't do this for a living, which means they can't put out any music anymore, which means you can't hear it. So, yeah, they've always been amazingly supportive, and it's always been a real, even going back to when this thing first started out, we were talking, it's such a close, tight-knit scene. I mean, everybody's fans. The bands are fans, the labels are fans, and obviously the people consuming the music are all fans. So just one big brother and sisterhood here, really.
So then you created the new Heavy Metal Review and started the whole fanzine sort of thing down there. How do you feel with the introduction of social media, that it's definitely sort of opened up the world to not only connect easier with folks like yourself or the bands, but with each other? And I just think that's kind of a neat thing to go from the written word of the fanzine to now everybody's got websites and so on. So it's just curious how you feel the progression has been.
Oh, I think it's been incredible. I mean, without social media, I'm pretty positive we would not be doing nearly as well as we're doing now.
Yeah.
Because it's, you kind of eliminate, and look, anybody that's helping to promote these records, whether it's magazines, podcasts, radio stations, whatever it is, we greatly appreciate that. But having this one-on-one where, we could communicate directly to the fans, and more importantly, the artists can communicate directly to the fans and have that kind of that one-way sort of relationship that you never would have had. That you could tweet at a band, and sometimes they'll retweet your tweet or answer your tweet or whatever it is, or Facebook, or pick your poison of all that stuff, and have this real interaction there. It gives, I think, everybody a little bit more of a vested interest in what's going on, because you feel you're one step closer to it. Where before, you're reading it through a third party, you're reading a magazine, you listen to the radio, whatever. And now you have this direct link, which is so great. And the fact that if you're in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you're fans of a band there, you can communicate with somebody in Stockholm, Sweden that has that loves the same stuff, and kind of create this friendship. And there's this huge network of social media that just gets everybody together. And that's, so great is people know when the records are coming out, they know when the bands are touring. So that's been a huge help in just helping to sell, not only music, but the touring and the t-shirts, because everybody knows what's going on. You just go on social media, and you'll know a band's every move and when everything's happening. You can follow the recording of the records in a lot of cases. I mean, it's an amazing platform. But we got in, at Metal Blade, we started when it first came out, I thought this was really cool. So we really spent a lot of money and time and resources. We have a whole big social media team, and we make sure that not only us, but the bands have all their stuff going, because it's an invaluable piece to have at this time. It's incredible.
Yeah, I can agree to that. I remember growing up before the internet, and half the time you didn't, unless you were reading like Krang or Circus or Hit Parader or whatever else you had back then, you didn't know until you walked into your local record store and you're like, holy shit, so-and-so's got a new album out. And like you said, now it's kind of all there. Anytime you need to figure something out, it's right in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes it so much easier with everything, right? And even back then, the tape trading. I mean, I do kind of miss you'd wait every day for the mailbox to see if there's anything in there, and then you get it, and excitement. But it's immediate now, where you can listen to something and immediately turn it on to other people. So I guess, it's kind of it hasn't really changed in terms of how, what being a fan is and listening to music. It's just a lot more immediate, I suppose. Kind of a good thing.
Yeah, I can agree to that. So in the past 35 years, I mean, this has been kind of an awesome roller coaster. Is there anything that really jumps out at you? Any massive moments that you look back and you're like, holy shit, that happened?
I mean, there's so many of them. It's almost impossible to pick one or two. I mean, the only one, people obviously they are getting asked that a lot because of the 35th anniversary. And really, if I had to pick one moment, I mean, it really was that first album. I mean, just the fact that I put together a compilation album in 1982 by my, I mean, I had a couple friends of mine, but, more or less myself, was pretty insane. I remember just sitting in the record store, and there was, all these boxes of vinyl records there. And when as a kid growing up, I was a huge music fan, and I loved so many different, metal bands and rock bands, all the way back to like AC/DC and Kiss in the 70s and stuff. And just, putting out a record that had my name on it, had the label on it, was just really kind of mind blowing. So that was probably still the biggest moment for me. It's just like, wow, this actually happened. I can't believe it. That's
pretty amazing, man. And we were just reading that the Hall of Heavy Metal History had inducted you into it. Was that was just recently?
Yeah, that was at NAMM, like last 2 weeks ago now almost. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of people who have been trying to put together these, kind of heavy metal Hall of Fame things. And this one, they definitely got a lot of good, cool people involved in it and stuff. And it was a fun night because everybody's trying to keep it secret from me. But I texted Kerry King from Slayer's a really good friend of mine. I was texting him. I said, "Hey, are you coming to NAMI?" So that just on Saturday. So I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went to this thing and they had all these tables around and they had two seats next to me for Kerry King. And I was like, I don't think they have it together here. I mean, they have this stuff for Kerry, but he's not here. He's not here till Saturday. And I guess they'd all kind of snuck him in, and although I found him a little bit earlier, but anyway, he presented the award, which was pretty cool. So it was a fun night. It was a fun night. A lot of cool people there. So it was very nice.
Ray, are you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm still here. I'm sorry. I'm just listening. I apologize, guys. Every time we interrupt each other, I get like, and then I start to stutter and stammer. So I'm like, all right, just let it flow. I'll jump back in,
No worries. There was a weird bang earlier, and then I hadn't heard from you. I thought, holy fuck, he passed out or something.
No, man, I'm just listening, and I'm trying to get into the flow of the conversation through. You see, that's the weird thing about technology, right? So everybody has got their version of the podcast. I mean, everybody's got different equipment, a different setup, the way they work, So it's like being recording through a phone. It's weird to me because there's no mic, and I'm like, it's so I don't know. Anyway, I'm just getting in my own head.
Oh yeah, I got to talk. That's right. I forgot about that.
yeah, exactly. I for some reason it's like when I'm at work, I'm on a conference call or something, and I'm just listening, and then I'm just listening, and next thing you know, they're like, hello? What? I was like, no, I'm here. I'm sorry. I got lost in the conversation. That's all.
Just sitting there daydreaming. I remember.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about this 35th anniversary. Well, tell us about the tour in general, the tour that's coming up with Whitechapel and I forgot the other three bands. Oh my God, I'm losing my mind.
I'll give you. I remember now. Whitechapel, Cattle Decapitation, Goat Whore, and Allegiance.
Yeah. And I
think they just added to some of the dates a new band called Necromancing the Stone. But it's funny because every 5 years there's some anniversary coming up and you have to do something, and we've done a box set, we've done a bunch of parties, we've done shows, we've done all these various things, and quite honestly the show part of it for me is like the biggest nightmare of all time because it's just a gigantic pain to do that sort of stuff. So when we were talking about the 35th, I was like, I don't want to do a show, I don't want to do anything, and one of the managers of one of the bands who managed Whitechapel, a few other bands, came and said, well, if we put together a tour of all Metal Blade bands, would you at least acknowledge that it was for that? Yeah, that I don't have to do any work, I can just show up and enjoy the show and not to deal with 1,000 people calling me for tickets or anything, then I think I can do that. So that tour is going out in the springtime and hitting pretty much everywhere in the U.S. and some Canadian dates. And I know we've got some events planned for a few of the festivals over in Europe this summer. And then kind of the big thing that we're doing for the 35th is we're writing a book, the entire history of Metal Blade. So it's pretty much done now. I actually was reading through it today because it's my job is I have to read through it and make sure it's accurate. But I'm actually super happy with the way it turned out. I think it's actually pretty cool and just tells the story of all the years of the label, and we talked to all the bands and all the people that work for us and stuff. So it's kind of it's not as exciting as the Motley Crue book or anything, I'm sure, but it's still an interesting. I think it's an interesting read just to kind of see the history of how everything happened. So that's our big thing, and that's hopefully going to come out, I think in August or September, somewhere around then. And we'll have a bunch of things planned around that. So you do all sorts of stuff, and it's kind of fun to go back and, kind of mine the catalog and redo some reissues and stuff for the 35th anniversary. We're doing a bunch of stuff with Spotify as well and Apple Music, where we're doing playlists and stories and all sorts of things. So by the end of the year, you'll be sick of us. Be like, God, they were just everywhere this whole year.
It's a good problem to have. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah. What's the hope, though, at least?
How long did it take you to write this book? Was it a lot of sitting down, telling stories, or is it more just historical, like on this date we did this, or stuff like that?
No, it's all stories. I'm writing it with a guy named Mark Eglinton, who did the Rex Brown from Pantera book, and he did one of the books from Nurgle from Behemoth, and he did a James Hetfield book and a bunch of stuff. Really good guy. So yeah, I just basically just sat down, and over the last, it's really been, about a year and a half now, just kind of sat down and just told a million stories and gave him a bunch of people to talk to, and he got talking to all of them. And now we're finally, it's finally completely done. So I'm just going through it to make sure it's all accurate. And then once it's all said and done, we should have some sort of press release probably in the next couple of months, hopefully, with the whole when it's going to come out and all that sort of stuff. But it's a lot of fun though to go back and relive all the stories. And sometimes you forget. I had to look, as I was doing this, I had to kind of look at like all the releases we put out in 1 year, like, oh, that's right, that came out. Oh, that's right, that happened. You kind of forget. So I think I got it all right. Hopefully nobody will be pissed off at me.
That's awesome, man. So when you're saying going back to the back catalog, right? Were there any bands that you ever thought were going to be like massive, or maybe that's the right way to say it, but you thought they were going to be a big deal and they kind of just disappeared? Were there any bands like that, or was it just?
Oh, there's a lot of those. I mean, even bands that did pretty well, you thought would be like, I always thought Armored Saint was going to be way bigger than they were. We thought that they would be in the Metallica, Anthrax, Slayer league, and it just kind of never happened for them for a variety of reasons, I suppose. But there was one band though that I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, we had a band that's came out in the early 90s that was kind of part of that. It was really a grunge thing, but kind of more of the like Pearl Jam-y sort of thing with a female singer called Princess Pang that was amazing live, and they put out this really cool record, but probably about 3 or 4 years before they should have put it out. And it kind of came and went. And there's another band that we worked with that came around right after Guns N' Roses made it really big in LA called Little Caesar. And we did their first EP, and then they got signed to Geffen, and it was the whole, Tom Zutaut, all the big guys who are behind Aerosmith and Guns N' Roses behind this band. It seemed they were amazing live. Everything they did was phenomenal. It seemed like the timing was right, and the record came out, and just nothing really happened with it. You're just like, how exactly did that happen? I mean, it wasn't quite the record. It could have probably sounded a little bit better, but it's really kind of just came out and kind of came and went real fast. And we're like, wow, that was strange. It seemed like it was going to happen.
Wow. Well, having said that, though, have you had any bands that you thought the album, like upon listening to it, wasn't going to go anywhere, that all of a sudden it just struck and it blew up?
I mean, not so much. I think, usually you've been pretty good with putting something out and knowing it's pretty good, and then you see it to fruition. So I'm trying to think if there's anything that really, really surprised us in how well it did. That's hard to say. I mean, I think we kind of figure something will do well, and then it'll end up doing pretty well. That's actually a really good question. I'm trying to think, because I know that there had to have been a couple of them where you're just like, I'm not really sure. I mean, in some weird way, just to bring it to modern day, there's this band Allegiant that's out on the 35th anniversary tour that I mentioned, and it wasn't that we didn't really think much would become of them, but when we first heard them, we liked them, but we weren't sure really what to do with it, and we didn't want to commit a lot of money to it, so we kind of did this really more or less development deal with them, where we just kind of didn't give any money, and they had recorded a record. We just kind of put it out. We weren't really sure if anything was going to happen. And then the record did really well. And now they're, 4 or 5 records in and starting to really kind of crack the surface into being something a little bit bigger. So that might be one where we didn't have a lot of expectations for it. And it's over the years kind of blown up. But now it seems like, they're pretty close to hopefully making that next step.
That's pretty awesome. Has there ever been anybody that's made a record and you're like, no, that's total shit, go try again?
Never. Thankfully, never. There's definitely been some times, though, where we've gotten mixes that were not good. And I'm like, we can't put this record. I mean, I think probably a really great example of that is Amon Amarth. So they had done, they're kind of a band that also we didn't expect was going to make that turn to be as huge as they are now. Because they started out as a really cool melodic death metal band from Sweden. We loved them. We thought they were great. They were phenomenal live, and we thought things were going to do pretty well. And then all of a sudden, I get the mixes for this album, Fate of Norns. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is a little bit different. They kind of took a bit of a different road here. It's a little more melodic. It's got some kind of really catchy stuff on it. But the first mixes were really not good. And I went to the band. I mean, most of the time we don't tell them like, hey, you should redo this or redo that. I mean, 99% of the time the bands have it pretty good. We'll make little, we'll all listen to mixes and say like, oh, maybe a little more hate of this here or there. But this one was like, I went to the band and said, look, I think this record is amazing. I think you guys have done something really interesting here, but the mixes are just awful. We got to remix this whole thing and really give it a proper mix to it. And luckily they kind of were like, at first I think they were a little bit like, and then they're like, I think you're probably right. And we went back and remixed it, and then kind of the rest is history for them. So there is that. But yeah, we've never had anybody deliver us a record that we thought was terrible. I mean, we try not to sign bands that we don't. I mean, every band we sign I like. So we don't anticipate that they would go in and make something terrible. So luckily that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, that would definitely be a weird moment where you're like, guys, this album is dog shit. You got to redo it. Like, there's no way.
But you know what? The major labels do that all the time. Like they'll sign a band, they'll make a record, and they'll just shelve it. They just won't ever put it out. They will spend a bunch of money and shelve it. I mean, I've seen that happen so many times. It's crazy. I could never ever do that, or even fathom being able to do that. It's crazy.
Well, yeah, and that's sort of where my thought process is. You hear it all the time with like even more popular poppy acts or whatever, where they've finished an album. Like I think it was like Adele's album, and the label told her to go try again, and she had to redo her whole album. And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you go back. There's a famous story with that band Riot and that album Fire Down Under, which is one of my all-time favorite records. And when they made that record in 79, 80, I guess it was too heavy for the record label. The record label refused to put it out. They're like, no, we're not going to put it out. The band fought, vehemently fought to get that record out. Eventually, they changed labels and it finally came out. And that's an amazing record. It's like, man, I don't know how that. Well, I mean, I know how that stuff happens, but it still blows my mind when you hear about stuff.
That's pretty wild. Now, in the time you've been running this thing, has there been any bands that have come through that you missed out? You wanted to sign them, but they ended up somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean, it's happened quite a few times. I think the two biggest ones were we got offered Pantera Cowboys from Hell, Oof. And I had known those guys because they were in Dallas. And they were a much different band before that album, if anybody's gone back to their old catalog. But I knew them from Dallas. And then they were managed by a couple friends of ours, and they came to us and said, hey, we got this new Pantera record, and it's a little bit different. So he sent me the raw stuff, and I was like, man, this is really good. But they wanted a ton of money for it. So I was like, yeah, I think that's a little bit out of our price range at this point. So, but they did okay, I think. So.
Yeah, I think they ended up all right.
Probably the other one that I really screwed this one up on. People, if I have any regret, it's not really a regret. I can't regret anything, but definitely I screwed up on this one. So when Guns N' Roses was playing around LA, I was really good friends with their manager and some other people who had seen them. And all these people saying, you got to go see them and they're amazing. You got to go see them. They're amazing. And they're playing at the Roxy, but they're playing right by where I live. But I couldn't do it because I thought they were a glam band because I saw the pictures and stuff and they kind of looked like a glam band. I hated that whole glam scene, so I just never went to go see them. So then, fast forward to whatever 6-7 months later, I get a advanced cassette tape, by the way, of Appetite for Destruction. And I was in New York, in our New York office, and I remember putting it in the cassette player and playing it and going, oh my God, what is this? This is Guns N' Roses? Holy cow. So we actually ended up doing a lot of marketing promotion for Appetite, which was kind of, because back then the major labels didn't have anybody doing metal stuff. So we actually did tons of marketing promotion for them. And I love the label. And the first time I ever met Slash was at a Iron Maiden Seventh Son of a Seventh Son party in LA. And he had some mutual friends, so they introduced me to him. And, I was like, at this point, I was a big-time fanboy because I was like, man, I love your record, and yada, yada, yada. And so we started drinking, and, we're drinking, and everybody's drinking the whole night. And towards the end of the night, we were just ended up basically just sitting on the floor after drinking a lot of Jack Daniels. He finally goes, "Hey, how come you never came to see us in those early days?" And I said, "I thought you guys were a glam." But he's like, "I hate when that happens. I hated that people thought of that." I go, "Yeah, I was stupid. What can I say?"
Dang.
That would have been unbelievable. I mean, that album was huge, obviously. I mean, still is.
Yeah, I mean, look, we probably never would have been able to make that record per se. I mean, but they did a record before that was kind of like an independent EP, which, but whatever. I mean, again, they did okay without us helping them.
Oh, for sure, man.
So bringing it into the future realm, so you've actually got your own podcast.
Yeah, I've been doing it. I mean, there's a Metal Blade podcast, which you listen to, which a bunch of people do, and I'm there every once in a while. But a friend of mine runs NHL.com, and I'm a massive sports fan and a massive hockey fan. And he in turn is a massive metalhead. And we're kind of talking because, there's a bunch of guys who play hockey and other sports that are big metal guys. And he actually came up with the idea. He said, we should do a podcast and just interview these NHL guys and talk about metal. I said, well, that might be kind of fun. So we decided to do this, and it's 3.5 years we've been doing this, and we've had, I don't know, a ton of NHL guys. We've had Hall of Fame NHL, Hall of Fame Major League Baseball. We've had NFL guys. We've had MMA guys, all sorts of celebrities and stuff. And we basically just get people that are into metal, that are in stuff that isn't necessarily metal, and have them talk about how much they love it. And then concurrently, we'll do some stuff where we'll do, for example, Johan from Amon Mars, who's a massive hockey fan and sports fan. So we'll talk to him about sports. And so it's really super fun for me, especially talking to the athletes. When we first started doing this, hockey players are notoriously horrible interviews. When you watch them, they're just taught to say nothing, and everything is a cliche. And when we first started this, I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is going to work, and how are we going to get these guys to talk for we could kind of, it's an hour-long podcast. What are we going to fill this with? And sure enough, you get these guys in, and you start talking music, and they won't stop. I mean, next thing you know, it's like an hour and 5 minutes in. I'm having to cut these people off half the time. Like, we could talk all day, but we're out of time. And it's a super lot of fun. So if you're into sports and metal, the podcast is called Metal Misconduct, and it's on iTunes and all that nonsense. So
yeah, that's
isn't that amazing though? I don't know. Isn't that amazing though when it comes to podcasts? Like, it's weird. I remember when we first started ours, and just sitting around and talking, and you're like, how the hell are we ever going to fill 20 minutes, let alone an hour or two? Because we listen to all the big podcasts, obviously, but then all of a sudden you sit down, you start talking, and the next thing you look down, you're like, holy shit, we've been recording 3 hours. What the fuck is going on? It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's just because it's the cool thing about podcasts are just a conversation, really. So it's a lot easier. The form seems more, casual, so you can go a lot longer.
Absolutely. And then connecting across countries, or across your own country or around the world, it's so different. It's interesting how open the world has become just through podcasting. I mean, it was already pretty open, but now factor in podcasting. It's one of my favorite things to do. So
yeah, absolutely. It's a cool form, and so many people are doing so many great podcasts and stuff now. It's just kind of an extra arm to social media, like we were talking about earlier. It's just another way to reach out to people. So it's cool.
Well, yeah, and it's like you said, it's kind of neat how you can take, just like you guys have with adding sports and metal, like you can add all combinations of things you love. Like for the most part, like FEARCast is a combination of metal, horror, and MMA. And so it's like you build these little sort of communities based on people with similar likes, just like you did in the metal community and all that sort of stuff. And it's a full extension of everything else that you love. So it's just really cool. Plus I like podcasting because it's so much more of to me, more of a chill forum where it's not necessarily question answer. You just kind of have a conversation, which, I mean, we're all humans. We all love to be social for the most part.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I love doing stuff at podcasts. I've done, a bunch of movie and horror podcasts, and all sorts of different genres, comedy podcasts, and I've done podcasts where you only talk sports, and it's kind of fun to do all that sort of stuff. You just talk with some cool people, and so I think it's a great format, and guys doing it well like you guys, we appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, man. Ray, did you fall asleep again?
No, 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 not at all. I'm sorry. There's a lot going on in the background here. I apologize.
That's a
Are you on a movie or something? What's going on over there?
Yeah, what are you watching?
No. My daughter is about to, at any moment go and have her second child. So we're waiting on that phone call. So there's a lot of chaos in the background. Everybody's,
Well, that's a good excuse. I don't know if it's a real excuse or not, but that's the best excuse I've ever had. So. No worries.
Absolutely. I'm not kidding.
No, it's bullshit, Brian. He lives by himself. He doesn't even have kids. He's a liar.
Yeah,
I've been married for 20 years.
For whenever he's not there, it's like, well,
He's like, Jaws is on.
You're like, dude, you've been having kids for like 44 years. What's going on? Every time you pause, it's ridiculous. But no.
Well, good luck with all that. Hopefully that all goes very well.
Oh yeah. We're just waiting on the call that she's headed to the hospital, and then we're headed. So
good.
It's that kind of thing. But it's all good. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, Brian. Man, I look forward to not only the tour, but the book. Actually, I don't do a lot of book reading aside from like The Dirt and stuff like that. But to be honest, man, I really look forward to reading this. For me, it's like I love metal, and sometimes I don't even think up until we started talking about this. Did I ever really think about how the label started and how things got, how the bands that I love ended up in my ears. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to reading that stuff.
Cool. There also will be an audiobook, so if you don't want to read it, you can just listen to me and a few other people. Yeah, listen to me and a few other people talking about it. So there is also that option as well.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So you're gonna be it'll be your voice?
Yeah, I'm gonna read. I'm not gonna read all of it because I think people probably get bored with my voice. So I've got a few of my friends in some bands that have very good, much better voices than I do to read some of it as well. So it should be pretty fun.
Yeah. Now I'm all shit scared that Ray's gonna get a fucking call. But,
no, we're good. I will tell you if I have to drop out. We are fine. Keep going. It's just I was thinking about something actually you just said, that, how the music ended up in our ears. Like I remember as a kid back, in the 80s and 90s, it was always by a friend, right? So somebody heard from somebody, and they just constantly spread the word. And I think now that's more social media, obviously, but I kind of miss that about music. Like I don't see that with my kids or even when they were coming up, where they were like, have you heard so-and-so? And like listen to them talk. It is so weird. Like now it's all like, check out this YouTube video, check out this, clip on YouTube or Twitter or whatever.
Well, yeah, it's the same exact thing. It's just a different form of it. It's like still people turning other people on to music. I don't think any of that's really changed. It's just the vehicle that you get is a whole lot different. You're not doing it in person at a party with a bunch of your friends. You're actually doing it with your friends online, saying, "Oh, I found this band." I mean, that's what happens with so many of the bands now. People figure it out through, and it's even changing like that. Now it's becoming these Spotify playlists where people are checking out and hearing new music, which is a whole nother way that things are happening. So it's all the same thing. It's just, and even for what we do at Metal Blaze, the most fun thing for me is to find some band from nowhere that nobody's ever heard of and put something out and have people really like it. It's the same thing, trying to turn people on to music that wouldn't have heard about it before. So.
Well, and that's the one cool thing I'm going through right now. Like I've got an 11-year-old daughter. We both have iPhones, so we both have Apple Music. And in the iPhone, it could be the same for Android. I have no idea, but we can send like Apple Music links back and forth. So she'll come up with and it's funny because when she was younger, she was into a lot of poppy stuff, and I was constantly like, "Yeah, but have you heard Black Sabbath?" And like just slowly just putting the seeds in there. And now, like she's 11, she's kind of doing her own thing, and now she's sending me tunes for bands that I'd never heard of. And it's like this kind of magical little moment that I've been able to share with my daughter when she sends me a band that's actually kind of heavy that she likes. And I'm like, motherfucker was listening. All right.
Yeah, that's awesome. That technology, man, there's a lot of cool stuff involved with it. That's for sure. But, you mentioned something earlier, just also that I found interesting. I always think is interesting about, how people get turned on to bands, and you just don't know, like you were saying, you didn't know how music got into your ears. And then on my end, we never know who's listening. because you're just kind of, you're just kind of doing your thing and putting this music out, and you're seeing numbers and all this sort of stuff, but you never really know who's listening. And the thing that's kind of blown me away, especially in the last few years, is just that, all these people from all of these, whether it's the restaurant industry or chefs or athletes or, guys who run banks and big businesses, all these guys that grew up listening to metal and, got this was a big part of their lives. And now they've become massively successful in these other areas, and you kind of meet them. And it's like, wow, who knew? And I've learned that almost no matter what it is, pick an industry. If you get in there, somebody in the industry is into metal. It might take you a while to find them, but there's somebody always in there. So it's been really fascinating for me. It's like, wow, because like I said, I don't know who's listening to it. You're just kind of putting it out, not really thinking about anything. And all of a sudden you meet these people. It's like, wow, they grew up listening to Metal Blade, a bunch of metal stuff. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is pretty amazing, man. I don't know. I fucking love music. And I want to really thank you, Bryan, for taking the time to sit down and chat with us. And I look forward to everything you guys are doing. Hopefully we can do this again sometime in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you guys doing a great job over there. And when the book's out, we're going to do a whole round of all of this stuff too. So we could probably talk again there. And I wish everything good for your impending new heavy metal person that's coming into the world here as well.
Your spawn.
Yeah, granddaughter. Little baby girl.
Oh, there you go.
It hasn't happened yet, but she's coming. But absolutely, I can't wait for the book myself, and I'll be actually going audio because I don't really read. Usually, I turn a page and I fall asleep. Like I actually bought Rex Brown's book and had it signed by him and everything, and I never got to reading it. I read like maybe 3 chapters, and I was like, all right, put that down.
Yeah. I'm kind of bad with that a little bit. I'm bad with that as well, but I do so many long flights, especially over in Europe. Because in Europe, when you fly around Europe, they don't have any entertainment or anything or internet or anything on the plane. So the only thing you really do is just read. So I read a lot of these autobiographical books flying to and around Europe. So if you go to Europe, you'll in 2 or 3 flights you'll have the book done.
Nice. That's awesome. See? And I'll make sure to put all the links to all your stuff. I mean, at this point, I don't necessarily think that there's any sort of thing that you have to pitch. Everybody kind of knows where to hit you up. But is there any social media or anything that you want to drop just in case anybody wants to reach out and dip their fingers in Metal Blade?
Yeah, the best way is I'm on Twitter at Bryan Slagel, Instagram at Bryan Slagel. I'm on those pretty much daily. I'm not there's a Facebook fan page there that I'm not on nearly as much. But if you're only doing Facebook, you can get some information there. But and then obviously all the Metal Blade socials at Metal Blade on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. You name it, we've got stuff out there.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, thanks again. And we definitely will hook up again when the book and everything gets released. And
awesome.
Because this is awesome. And I think we did a pretty good job not fangirling too much. Honestly, dude, I want to scream like a little girl because you kick ass. Like I'm not gonna lie, you kick ass. You've brought along some of the bands that have definitely shaped who I am in my future, and love it, man. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thanks you guys, and thanks for the support and stuff too. Obviously, just the fact that you went out and bought some of this stuff means a lot. So appreciate that, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good, brother. Thanks so much.
Absolutely, man.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, Bryan.
Yep. Have a good night, man.
You too.
Yo, that was awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I did my best not to scream like a little girl, but for me, that was something special. Because not only is Bryan a really cool guy, plus he's got a really awesome record label. But back when I was in high school and I was in a band and I was doing everything I could to try to be a musician, man, I would have given anything to be able to sit down and just chat with someone like Bryan Slagel or Chris Poland of Eclipse Records and just pick their brains on some stuff. So this is something really special. I'm trying to get Chris on too. We work with them quite a bit over at Eclipse Records, and I don't know, it was that was fucking awesome. And I can't wait to chat with these guys again. I want to thank Ray for coming on Naked Porch. You better check it out. It comes out every Wednesday at FYFCstudios.com. as well. We do have FIFCast and FEARCast, which you're listening to. I hope you dig it. Jump on over to iTunes. Give us a 5-star rating. It's a good way for you to get a little shout out on our social media, and it helps just to kind of promote the brand any further. Like you heard on the little spiel, my suave spiel in the beginning, head over to patreon.com/FYFC Studios, and you can go ahead and support the band as well. We've got merch for sale while supplies last, because that shit disappears pretty quick. But you can hit me up. Also, if you have any questions, any bands you want me to listen to, anything, hit me at fear@fyfcstudios.com. I look forward to hearing from you guys, man. Hit us with that feedback. We do love it. It helps us grow. It helps us move this thing in the direction that the people that listening, the guys that matter, we want to do what you want to hear. So hit us up. And until next week, run along, kiddies.
Hey guys, it's Fear from FYFC Studios. I really hope you're enjoying Talk Life, FEARCast, or A&Way. Plus, there's always lots of entertainment over on our website. Because I'm a cannabis advocate and often forget things, I wanted to make a little bumper to get you fine folks to head over to nftfyb.com. No fucking time for your bullshit. That's how we do. Again, that's www.nftfyb.com. Feel free to reach out on any social media. We're always looking for cool people to talk to, get somebody else's opinion on something, crazy stories you see in the news that you'd love to see us react to. Look, we'll probably never be consistent, but we'll always be entertaining. Thank you for listening one last time. nftfyb.com.